But for now, let's head back to Florida, where defendant Ellen Gilland is about to be sentenced for the shooting death of her terminally ill husband. Let's go back in.
I'll ask you and your attorneys to please stand while I'm imposing sentence. Typically, I would have you come forward, but I want you to be able to rely on the walker or the table if you need to, ma'am. So, and I just want to take this opportunity to remind everyone as well that no outbursts or emotional expressions will be tolerated. You'll be removed from the courtroom if that does happen. So to kind of reiterate, Ms. Gilland, you're here on the counts that your attorney stated. You've got the one count of assisting self-murder or manslaughter, 2 counts of aggravated assault with a firearm, and those refer to Mr. Jackson, the security officer, and Mr. Aponte, both of whom testified here today. And then you had that 4th count of aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer with a firearm, and there were 6 officers who were named as victims in count 4 of the indictment. So the score on the criminal punishment score sheet is 115 months, which would be 9 years and roughly 8 months. The state, as you know, has agreed to waive the minimum guidelines and agreed to cap your punishment at 10 years prison. And I first want to talk about some of the testimony that I've heard today. And Ms. Gilland, I accept your testimony today that you've given with respect to the fact that Jerry was suicidal. I know there's no records that document that, but I accept what you stated, that he told you and continued to express that he was suicidal. I think that makes sense that a husband would confide in his wife of 53 years with respect to his serious emotional condition. I accept your testimony, ma'am, that his condition was worsening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I accept your testimony that you and Jerry jointly decided to commit suicide, that you believe that was the only way out. And I accept your testimony that you do not remember staff informing you about comfort care or hospice. I think the doctor testified honestly with respect to what hospital procedure is, but I think it's highly likely that that either didn't happen or that you don't remember it. Also, I accept Dr. Danziger's testimony that you continue to not be a risk of danger to the community and that you were suffering from some sort of mental health episode on the date of the incident. I want to point out that, as everybody knows, this is not just a case about you and your terminally ill or very ill husband, because we've heard from the fact, from the testimony today, that there are many other victims in this case. And by entering your plea, you've admitted to having pointed a firearm at 2 hospital employees. You've admitted to having pointed a firearm at many Daytona Beach police officers as well. And we've heard today that there were 34 patients, 33 other patients on that floor who potentially had their treatment, their medical treatment disrupted, not to mention putting them in fear for their lives and perhaps their family as well. And then I don't even know how many hospital employees and their family members were impacted by the decision that you made. And it has come out today that you're educated, you have a master's degree. Some of these letters described you as smart and patient and kind and generous and thoughtful, but your actions on that date were none of those things. And your attorneys identified in the sentencing memo a few other similar cases where an elderly defendant had killed his or her spouse in some type of a mercy killing where that spouse was seriously ill. And the difference between those 3 cases that were identified and this one is the other victims. And that's what makes this case different to me. A lot of the letters that were sent in and even some of the testimony today talked about aid in dying laws and how Florida should have such a law. This is not the proper venue to make that argument. I am not a lawmaker. That is not my focus. That's an argument that needs to go to the Florida legislature and them only. Now, that's not to say that I'm unsympathetic to you, ma'am, because I can't fathom the difficulty of watching your husband's medical condition deteriorate to the point that he was in that constant kind of pain and wishing that he were dead. I can't understand that. I can't begin to understand how difficult it would have been for you to actually pull the trigger to assist your husband in ending his own life. I do believe that that is what you did. And so the punishment that I'm going to impose in this case is related to the other charges against you primarily. I've heard from the victims today, and I am highly persuaded by that testimony about the trauma that was inflicted on them. So, ma'am, I am going to adjudicate you guilty. You will be a convicted felon as a result of this incident. I'm going to sentence you to 366 days DOC. That's prison. And you will get credit for the 42 days that you've served. That'll be followed by 12 years of probation. The probationary terms are that you have to write letters of apology to the civilian victims and the 6 law enforcement victims that were identified in the indictment. And then this is an important part of the sentence as well. I want you to perform a minimal amount of community service hours per month for as long as you're physically able to do that. I want you to do 8 community service hours a month, so that's maybe 2 a week. And I don't care what you do, but I want you to realize, ma'am, that your life still continues to have value and you can contribute to society. You can even do work from home, like telephone or even via an internet connection. Again, I don't care what you do, but I want you to give back, and I want you to enjoy the feeling of giving back to others as well. And then last but not least, there's going to be a mental health evaluation as a condition of probation, and you'll have to comply with whatever, if any, follow-up is recommended. It could just be take medication, but whatever the professional recommends is what you'll have to do. There are court costs of $770 plus $100 cost of prosecution and $100 cost of investigation to the police department, and you'll have to pay those off as a condition of your probation. So they're going to take you into custody today to begin serving that sentence, and again, you'll get credit for those 42 days that you've already served. Is there anything else that I need to address today?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor. Thank you so much, Your Honor. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, folks.
Thank you.
And there is the sentence. Still with us to help break this down, criminal defense attorney Franz Borgart, and joining us now, trial attorney Adante Pointer. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with me as we listen to this sentence. Important to note that, as the judge said, the state said there's no minimum. We're going to waive any minimum, judge, and the maximum 10 years, but they didn't make a recommendation. She only got 366 days in prison with 42 days served. Adante, let me start with you. Your reaction.
Well, they just sent Granny to prison. Yes, Granny pulled the trigger, which took the life, assisted in the suicide of her husband. You know, me and the way I see this, not necessarily as what the judge said, what's on the books, but what appears to be right. This doesn't look right, seeing Granny led away to prison right here to me. They could have given her probation. I think that would have been more appropriate, given that it was an assisted suicide versus her doing something with malice or as a vindictive or a retribution. This was something that apparently, given the evidence, she admitted to, and something that her and her husband agreed upon.
And I think the judge did lean in and say it's not as much that I'm sentencing you on, but rather the fact that you did point your firearm at 2 hospital employees, 2 law enforcement, and the importance of these other victims. Franz, your reaction to the sentence?
So I'll play devil's advocate, Judge. It could have been much worse. And she should be very, very grateful that she is going to be in for a minimal amount of time for essentially killing her own husband, whether he wanted it or not, in a public place where someone else easily could have gotten harmed. A minimal amount of community service, Judge. This is a great victory for the defense. And, you could tell on her face, I don't think she understood what the judge was saying when she handed down the sentence. So, like I said, could have been much, much worse.
Yeah, I think I agree with both of you. It could have been much worse. Theoretically, she could have just been given probation. But again, to have a firearm and a 4-hour standoff with law enforcement, barricading herself in the room, threatening others with that gun, I think that did make a difference to the judge. Adante, talk about her demeanor, her testimony. She, to me, was very honest, very straightforward, describing not only the deterioration of her husband, the really lack of good care by a hospital, according to her, of herself and or her husband, And then every detail of what she did, I don't think she hid the ball. I don't think she tried to lie to the court or make it seem better than it was. She was very forthcoming.
Agreed. She was forthright. She told her truth, and it sounded and came across genuine and authentic. You know, the idea of watching someone you loved, who you've been married to, I believe I heard 50 some odd years, in your opinion, being tortured by the ineffective or the substandard medical care. I mean, this lady couldn't walk her husband out of there. She wasn't in a position to take him home where they could do it. And otherwise, she would be forced to come there and watch someone she loved deteriorate and waste away. So, you know, there's just, to me, she's already serving the rest of her life without her life partner. How much more do you want to extract from her? And I understand the standoff and waving guns at people is not correct and not right. And there should be some punishment for that. But I also believe that's the punishment that she's going to have to deal with for the rest of her life, in terms of thinking through she doesn't have her life partner and she took him out on her own, at her own hand.
And she did acknowledge to the judge she has lots of regrets from that day. And also to note, when they take her out of the courtroom, they wheel her out in a wheelchair. All right, stand by, gentlemen. Right now, the defense attorney, Matthew Ferry, is speaking following the sentencing. Let's listen in together.
Any questions?
How do you feel? 1 second.
Yeah. So we're very, very thankful for Judge Weston, also the state attorney's office. The state attorney's office, because they agreed to the proposed resolution as relates to waiving the minimum mandatory and capping the sentence. Judge Weston thoroughly reviewed our sentencing memorandum and all the mitigation that was provided from doctors and also normal civilians. And I think that was the ultimate difference in Judge Weston's decision to sentence her to 1 year in jail, essentially. So we're very pleased. It's a very sad case because Ms. Gilland is a wonderful person. She loved and cared for her husband very deeply. And obviously we wish we were not in this situation, but hopefully going forward she can come out of jail and do good for the community. So.
Can you say that part again at the beginning, because we didn't capture it, that you are happy with the sentence?
Yes. Yeah, we're very thankful again to Judge Weston and showing compassion to Ms. Gilland and taking into consideration all the mitigation that we provided. Ms. Gilland will serve about a year in county jail and followed by probation. So we're very thankful to the judge and the state attorney's office for this resolution.
County jail, not DOC?
It's DOC. She has 40-something days of credit time served, so that'll be applied to that sentence. So they'll calculate it, but it won't. She'll serve probably less than a year of time.
No, I'm just saying is that you said in county jail, but not.
No, the ultimate sentence was over 365. So yeah, that's a Department of Corrections sentence. Yes.
So
yeah.
not county jail. Okay, yeah, because that was threw me for a second.
Yeah.
Did you say anything to you before she was taken away?
No. Okay. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bo. My aunt has lived with me for the last 2 years, and I really thought I'd be bringing her home today. So I'm a little bit shocked, and I'm very worried about her. But I'm told it's fair and that it's actually a good outcome. It's just going to be hard not being with her every day. I've been with her every day for the last 2 years, and that's all. Thank you, guys.
Can we have you say your name if you don't mind, please?
My name is Bo Timmy.
Can you spell that for us?
Bo, B-O, Timmy, T-I-M-M-E.
Have you talked to her today?
She lives with me. We stayed in a motel last night. Yeah, we went out to dinner last night. We had breakfast this morning. We drove over here, and they did let us go and give her a hug before they took her. So that was important.
Take that with you. Take that with you.
Yeah. I'm hoping to be able to see her and talk to her soon, and I'll make every effort to do whatever I can to make her comfortable.
Her spirits were pretty high today? Or
I
was she nervous?
was more hopeful, I think, than anybody else in that courtroom, including her. I just kept telling her, you're gonna go home with me today. So the fact that she's not coming home is just really, it's heartbreaking, and it's just gonna be hard. But yeah, well, you know, I mean, it is what it is. So
Thank you, ma'am.
thank you.
It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.
It doesn't feel like it.
All right, Franz, I want to ask you this. You just heard them say that 365 days or under could have been in the jail versus what the judge sentenced 366 days means she goes to prison. Why do you think the judge did that? Because the rumor reputation is that prison is worse than jail.
So I'm guessing that there's some behind the scenes things going on with regard to the medical capabilities of one versus the other. I'm assuming that she is in a medical ward or unit, and look, it's incarceration, but she might actually be more comfortable in the prison than the jail. And, you know, she's already, we've discussed the health issues she has and the fact that she's in a wheelchair. I think the judge was doing her a favor, whether it seems that way or not.
All right, good points, because I did wonder, and that would make good sense if that's the case. We have to squeeze in a break. Coming up next, we're going to switch gears and head to Florida for the celebrity stylist murder trial for Monica Cementilli. Stay with us. We'll be right back.